welcome back to Tyranny. Okay, I guess it's time to make our way back to Cacophony and talk to my main man, Voices of Narat, and presumably hand over the Silent Archive to him. I hope I don't have to. I'd rather hold on to it. But if I do have to hand it over, I will. I'm not going to resist. I'm still going to play the faithful servant for now.
Anything for Alpha to kill in shadow. Beast Woman cannot do as Alpha wants.
There he is. Voices of the Rat regards you with an unreadable expression. Death surrounds us, but it would be useless to avoid inevitability. That is a lesson Gravenash and his fast, clotting army will never understand as they scramble to avoid the grave. Welcome back, Fateminder. What do you need to know? We're busy with answers. I'd like to report on recent events. Twice-worded Periact. You returned victorious, and her censor has come back to the fold with a wealth of intelligence, as much as her meager brain could hold under the circumstances. But do not grow complacent. We have much work to do before the tears are draped in scarlet robes. The flames behind his mask can lick around the eye holes of anticipation. The censor returned to us about the Silent Archive. We suppose Tuna ought to know that you're not just in possession of forbidden lore. You've the teachings of the Tears with you. Now you're the expert here, but that seems enough to warrant intent to distribute. We are tempted to ask what her silence is worth. The Archon hurls a scepter into the air, gingerly catching it on its return before tapping the scepter to his mask. But it'd be hard for us to keep a straight face. Why is the Silent Archive so important to you? The green light behind his eyes flares up in amusement. Are you trying to bait us into a legal trap, Fatebinder? Do you imagine that none of us are educated in Kairos' meddlesome laws, much less how to dredge up incrimination through simple curiosity? Of course we only want the Silent Archive to keep it out of Ash's hands. That old sourpuss has enough arcane strength on his side without adding a bottomless trove of knowledge to his arsenal. Make no mistake, he would do anything to gain an advantage on us, including break the laws of our dear overlord. The very implication that we would use such a resource to further our own ends is frankly shocking and insulting. Shame on you, Fatebinder. Yes, well, I very much intend to use it for my own gains if I have a chance. The flames licking the back of his neck rear up momentarily, forming a pair of horns. Don't suppose you want to make an offer on it? Who do you take us for? The local fence? He waves his hand at you with a dismissive wag. The flames of his fingers leaving trails of sickly green smoke lingering in the air. Keep it. We wouldn't dare offend Kairos by holding on to such a thing. Sweet, so I get to keep it. Awesome. The Edict of Fire is quenched, and the ruins smolder no more. Yet we detect a fire all the same, wicked Fatebinder. It burns in your heart, warming you with knowledge and great power. Do not deny it. You have changed before our many eyes. The Edict of Fire still lives within me. I can't quite explain it. We smell the Overlord's power. You brew of promise, a cauldron, a caldera, A mixing pot of wonders ready to explode. But enough of this. We demand progress, and nothing will ever get done if you insist on plaguing us with frivolity. Tunon's arcane smiths set up shop at Lethian's Crossing, with simple ore drenched from the heart of Terratus. They can assemble wondrous crafts of iron. Our intellect swells overfull with secrets, yet we are ignorant of the iron's secret. Seek out the Forgebound and their master, who even now makes for Lethian's Crossing. Have her sent to Cacophony. I guarantee her protection and safeguard her knowledge. An artist such as herself needs to be shielded from the perils of war. According to the whispers of her spies, a graybeard by the name of Eldian may be able to tell you more. We are nothing if not receptive to the wisdom of ages. Had we the resources, we would split you into pieces and send you to represent our interests wherever you go. As you can only follow one path at a time, for now, we leave the choice to you. The Blade Grave or Lethian's Crossing. Whichever you choose, return to Cacophony when your mission is complete. I will go to Lethian's Crossing. I want to go back there and see if I can get to the top of that spire. The crossing lies in the shadow of an ancient spire. Yes, I know. We know from the apex that you find such places alluring. Feel free to explore this one to your heart's content. Seek out Harchian Bronze, I've already spoken to the man, a merchant who has served the chorus with enthusiasm. We pay him handsomely for his services, so he should be obliging to your mission. The voice arches his finger and nods to himself, as if agreeing to something unspoken. With the forge-bound master and the secret of iron on our side, Graven Ash and his army will tumble over like a phalanx of cloth dolls. Okay. Alright, well, off to Lethian's Crossing we go. I got a twice something or other Periapt. Where is it? Twice warded Periapt. Gives tenacity, +1 resolve. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I think I'm gonna hold on to what I got. I mean, this gives the same. This is +2 resolve, though. This is basically a stronger version of that. Yeah, let's hold on to that. Well, I should talk to these guys and resolve their little dispute. The Scarlet Fury and Horde remain locked in a vicious argument. What's going on here? Fatebinder. Yes, Fatebinder. Good of you to come along, the Horde representative sneers and straightens himself taller, feeling self-important in the moment. He just saved this Fury's neck. I find that unlikely. Scarlet Furies don't surrender their necks to anyone by a fight. Their guts would have pooled around your feet before that happened. A damn slew of Oathbreakers came crawling to us less than a fortnight ago. So we tussed the lot up like beastmen for roast. Why should we welcome liars and defectors to guard our backs? The Horde member spits again, but aims to the side this time, careful to avoid aiming the Scarlet Fury. Come now, Fatebinder, you're a clever sword. Tell us your thoughts. We have to throw them in the pit. Let the lone survivor join us. It's the way of the chorus. Right, boss? The pit serves for merriment and to weed out fence-suckled weaklings like you. The Fury snaps at the Horde member. Turning to you, she adds, in this case, it would be a waste of resources. These are part of the splinter that held off the disfavored Adventrians well for many months. We should integrate them into my unit of Furies. I'll hear you out and then settle this matter as a fate binder. The Scarlet Fury cocks a nod of agreement. I'll be sated just to have the squabbling done with. But we can't win a war with only fishnet slatterns and a sea of blood. We need skilled fighters to wield their blades. The Scarlet Course doesn't lag for meat to throw at the enemy, but it's always in need of experience. If you ask me, those with training should go to the Scarlet Furies. Anything less would be a waste of talent. We might be made of tearsmen, but we're loyal to Kairos. The chorus ain't an open cattle call to any turncoat who gets a sharpened weapon and a decent pair of boots. He licks a sooty thumb in thought. Toss them in the pit, boss, and I'll donate a share of the proceeds to you. In this case, I think I'm going to side with the Fury and reverse. Who's naturally going to side with another Scarlet Fury? I don't see much to gain from tossing them in the pit. So you have them all fight out and you have one remain, which, yeah, you get the strongest fighter out of the lot. But that doesn't in any way assure that that one person that survives is any more loyal than any of the others would have been. On the other hand, all of these guys are seasoned fighters and not just some guys that picked up a pitchfork. It seems an awful waste to have that many be killed when they could be integrated into the Furies. So like you put however many there is, say there's 10, and if 4 of them wind up being turncoats, you still wind up with 6 good seasoned fighters that you added, where if you put them in the pit, you wind up with 1 that may or may not be a turncoat. The captives will go to the Scarlet Furies to aid with strategic military operations within the chorus. The Scarlet Fury salutes you brusquely, but with honor. I'll see them assigned to a suicide mission at once. If the Henpeckers can survive that, then they'll be worthy to serve my Furies. You know, they've tried everything in their power to find death before conscription, and now you turn them over to the rat? You have a cruel sense of justice, Fate Binder. I'm practical, Ed. I'm looking to strengthen our numbers. Cruelty and such doesn't really factor into my decisions, generally. Sometimes if I'm trying to impress somebody. Generally speaking, I don't really care. First things first, I should talk to Archie and Bronze. Ah, Fate Binder. Come to stock up, I see. Archie and Bronze at your service. What can I do for you? The voices in the rat told me to speak with you when I arrived. Of course. I received a missive mentioning you would be arriving. I'm I'm afraid I don't have much to tell you at the moment other than the Forge-bound master has arrived at Lethian's Crossing. You should probably go to the Forge and find out what's going on. The Forge-bound and I aren't really on the best of terms. Where is the Forge? He points to the tier above you. The Forge is up on the second tier in the back of the crossing. What are your thoughts on the Bronze Brotherhood? He shrugs. What can I say? They make decent customers. I try to stay on their good side because I've seen how easily they come down on those that step out of line. I chat just enough to be friendly, but never enough to leave enough of an impression to be dangerous. Mind getting that mace? I think it's pretty great. Does a lot of damage. But it's kind of out of my price range. I mean, I could sell some stuff off. Like this Unraveler's cane. That's a lot of money for that. I'm probably never going to have Lantry in my team again. So, it'd be the worst thing in the world to sell that. That still doesn't get me where I need to be, though, to buy that. I'm going to get the Sigil of Brooding and the Sigil of Bleeding done. Oh, I already know this channel stream. I could have sold that. Okay. Well. Ooh, check this bow out. Relentless, huh? Actually much lower damage, much higher accuracy, and has a volley. What is volley? Fires multiple projectiles. Interesting. There's this Tearsman hunting bow. It's slower, greater range though, but it doesn't have the accurate modifier, and it's -4, so it's really -14. Plus 2% health. This does 23%. Oh, 4% health. AoE. Oh. Plus 3 health every 3 seconds for 45. Okay, so this is basically regenerate spell, which is cool. And this is an AoE. Yeah. There's a lot of useful spells here. For now, though, I think I'm just going to do the straight up regular restoring touch, and I'm going to buff the crap out of it with a Strength Sigil, getting this up to 32%. Range Sigil, so I can do it from further away. That gets me up to 65. I might not be able to do anything else. cost. This is what, 15? No. Well, I don't really care about precision. They'll reduce the cooldown. 75. There we go. Now I have a healing spell. Second tier, huh? Okay, well, let's go up here. Go back in and try to get atop the spire again. I need a keystone now? I was able to get in there before. Sorry, Fatebinder. Bane has been spotted in growing numbers recently, so Eldian has asked us to seal the old walls. Oh, dicks. Is this the place he was talking about? Map. The forge. It is. Alright.
Smells strange.
Wait a minute, this isn't the forge. Some settlers. I will relieve them of the possessions, though. We have Ravenshaw of Rogues. Plus 10 subterfuge. Okay. If I really want to replace this haste, that's pretty good. Carrying. Kind of like what I have on my characters as it is. Plus 1 vitality. Who has the highest subterfuge in the team? 46. I have 59. 67 would be verse, probably. Yeah. But I don't want to replace anything she has. Oh, there's more stuff to loot. Fish! So if that wasn't the forge... Oh, it's over here. Whoops, I'm an idiot. Okay. What is this guy doing? Why is he just kneeling there? Is he like taking a leak on this wood? What's going on here? Biotus. Welcome, friend. The merchant cries out to you, his belt jingling with rings. He waves his arms about in a dramatic presentation of his wares. What brings you to my humble trading post? Have a certain something in mind? Or just browsing? Some money out of it, huh? Stenia turns and approaches you, her lithe body moving fluidly as she walks. She stops before you, her stance solid and sure, but you see she is standing lightly on her feet, ready to move if necessary. She never takes her eyes off you, but you know she's acutely aware of her surroundings. Fatebinder, may the fires of your forge never cool, she salutes you. I had hoped our paths would cross. What can this servant of the flame do for you? Why have you come to Lethian's Crossing? What an odd question, Fatebinder. When you showed up in the forge, I thought you had been sent to check up on me, as my mission came directly from Tunan. Shouldn't you already know? I was tasked with creating an artifact to protect the Forgebound from the Bane. We have been delayed too often and lost too many of our own, so it was decreed that something must be done. I created the Mage Bane Helm to keep the Bane at bay. Once the helm is in place, its magic will keep the Bane locked away inside the old walls. You created a helm. The Forgebound are crafters of weapons and armor, Fatebinder, not statues and baubles. I make what I know. It is also portable and can be moved easily and used in battle should its protection be needed elsewhere in the future. For the time being, though, I will remain here, protecting the Forgebound. We have a job to do and cannot do it properly if we are constantly assaulted by outside forces. Why did the Forgebound stay here if the Bane are such a threat? This forge is in the shadow of the old walls, in an area rich with iron. We have an ample supply of raw material and all the influence of ancient magics. It is an acceptable risk, and with the helm in place, the Bane will no longer be an issue. Why were you asked to create this item? Couldn't any Forgebound here do it? All Forgebound are masters at their craft, but each also has their special talents. The Mage Bane required someone whose skill were well above those who haven't been practicing as long as I have. Tunan wanted a master these, so he asked the master. How did you become the master of the Forgebound? I was trained at a young age to be a warrior, but never felt any connection to that life, except when I was instructed how to repair my equipment. The fire spoke to me. It sang when I stoked it, and told me where to swing my hammer to achieve the proper shape. I knew from that first moment that it would be my life. I apprenticed with the Forgebound and focused exclusively on my craft. Soon my skills were superior to everyone else. I took risks with magics no one else dared touch, and created some of the most powerful artifacts ever to come from the Forgebound. Kairos recognized my skill and granted me the title of Master of the Forge. That is why Tunan asked me personally to create an artifact to protect Lethian's Crossing. I have a request to make of you. Unfortunately, I don't have time to entertain your request right now, Fatebinder. I was just on my way to place the helmet. I need to get it set up as soon as possible. The settlers have created a spot in their third tier. If you don't mind, join me in Albion and we can speak there. The sunburnt man dips his head in greeting. An outsider never arrives alone. At least that is what my mother always said. Seems she knew what she was talking about. He nods thoughtfully in his own words. I'm Albion. Welcome to Lethian's Crossing. You must be the one everyone is talking about. Tunan's Fatebinder, right? Albion looks you over. We could have used your help when Kairos' forces tried to take Lethian's Crossing. I suppose you would have been fighting on their side, wouldn't you? But the Brotherhood overcame, and now we're saddled with the continued leadership. He shrugs. I suppose there are worse fates. Hearing stories about your exploits in Vendrian's Realm, I expected you to be 12 feet tall and shoot fire from your mouth. You can't always tell the contents of pie from its crust, can you? But enough of my prattling. You wouldn't come here for a history lesson or to get my opinion on your grandeur. He waves his hand dismissively at his previous comments. What can this old fool do for you? Can I ask you some questions about Lethian's Crossing? If you have questions about a settlement, I'm the one to ask. I have the dubious distinction of being the oldest living resident of Lethian's Crossing. So I've been here for a lot of its history, Albion smiles. Eyes, hips, hair, and hearing might be failing, but my mind still remembers everything that happened here. What would you like to know about? I'll do my best not to go on for too long. I know I have a problem keeping my conversations short. Who was Lethian? The biggest pain in the ass I ever knew? He turns bright red, blushing at his words, then lets out a huge guffaw. I suppose I shouldn't talk about my mother like that. She was a mediocre merchant, but a great leader. The war in the northern kingdoms cost her a very lucrative trade route up north, but she managed to earn trade stewardships from Kairos, and for a short time, she had a monopoly on grain, salt, and tin here in Tears. What did my grandmother say? Give a blind man time and a pile of rocks, and eventually he'll hit a target. He shrugs. Not to say she didn't deserve it, but I think luck played a bigger part in her success than actual talent. But Kairos gives, and Kairos takes. The next year, Lethian was stripped of her trade rights. Suddenly she had a large staff, but no goods to trade and no means to pay anyone. But she was a stubborn one and knew if she just kept at it, eventually things would turn around for her. She figured that trade goods could come to us. The location was good enough. It's crazy how that would happen. So she decided to concentrate on making an existing local settlement into the center of commerce for the Tears. And by the claws of a beast, she did just that. I thought she was crazy choosing a town nestled up to the old walls, but apparently she knew what she was doing. It wasn't long after that it was renamed Lethian's Crossing, with the bridges over the old walls. This is the only place to go if you want to take a week off your trip. Eventually, she hired the Bronze Brotherhood to act as our local guards. We were big enough and had enough commerce to warrant the protection. Lethian was your mother? Of course. How did you think I became the Reeve of the Crossing? Certainly not my storytelling or a charm. I may be the oldest living resident here, but that's certainly not a good enough reason to make someone a leader. Though, come to think of it, neither is just being the offspring of the former leader. He laughs. But like it or not, that's how things are. My mother was a wonderful woman. She might not have been the nicest person, and she might not have been over fond of the dalliance here or there. But who isn't? May her rest be ever free of disturbance. How did you build the old wall bridges? Lethian was the mastermind of that. She could tie a knot with one hand, one string. I remember watching her draw systems of ropes and knots in the sand, telling me what they would do when built. I thought she was crazy. Says she got the idea for the bridges from seeing galleys pulled out of the water into dock. Apparently, the hardest part was getting the initial climbing team to brave the old walls and set the first ties. But apparently you can pay a man enough rings for him to overcome a sphere of old world predators. Why did you settle here? Necessity. The rope bridges let us cross the old walls. With them, it didn't matter what trade rights we had. We'd be at a crossroads to the northern tiers, an unbeatable location. The siege of the Ardent and the Bastard City ended up helping us. All those folks heading to points east crossed through our little settlement, and many of them decided to stake a claim to us. And then Lethian discovered there was iron in her rivers. She thought it'd make us rich, but it also made us a target. The old walls don't make passage through the area easy, and our bridges cut days to weeks off a trip. Lethian's Crossing is the best bet to get your shipment where it needs to go. Mix some other load of iron ore into it, and we suddenly had a target painted on us. What is Kairos' interest in the crossing? Iron, plain and simple. We have the forge-bound here toiling away with the ore they pull from the river. We're being squeezed for our resources. If you're after a drink, better to squeeze fruit than a stone. And it would seem many people find us to be very juicy indeed. There was a merchant who tried to peddle iron rocks as magical because they came from near the old walls. One of the people he sold to happened to be a disfavored courier. The courier that showed the rock to a forge-bound master who immediately recognized its potential for making superior weapons. It was brought to Kairos' attention, and soon afterwards soldiers and forge-bound came to Lethian's crossing. They came with such force our options were to either comply with what they wanted or die. Why does the Brotherhood want Lethian's crossing? Land? Breeding stock? They've been here longer than I, so maybe they consider it home too. But Kairos' purse masters are no longer paying them to fight, and if a mercenary is killing for free, something is suspect. In the end, I suppose it doesn't matter. Raitman will never let go. He feels he owns this town, and he aims to have it be his. What can you tell me about the Spire? Aldian shakes his head. Sometimes I wonder why Lethian thought it was a good idea to settle here. We already had a Bane problem before the Forge-bound set up here. Now that they're using the crossing as one of their main forges, the Bane issue is even worse. Since the Bane are drawn to magical energy, we have to be constant alert for them escaping. How did you seal the door? I have a keystone that can be used to open or seal the door. When Kairos' soldiers found it while they were looking for a way to seal the doors to keep the Bane from escaping. The sealed door is only a temporary measure though. It holds the Bane back for now, but it won't last for much longer. This is why Tunan instructed Stenya to create an artifact to protect Lethian's crossing from the Bane. Will you let me into the old walls? I'm afraid that's a risk I'm not willing to take, Faybinder. Once the doors are unsealed, there's a good chance Bane will flood into Lethian's crossing. As much as I would love to help you, I can't danger the town like that. I wouldn't get in there one way or another. Tell me your thoughts on the Bronze Brotherhood. They were here since the crossing was founded. Lethian herself hired them to protect the settlement when it was just getting started, a fledgling town in the shadow of the old walls. They did such a good job, she kept them on as our peacekeepers. That's how things went. They're a good enough sort, but when the rat offered to pay them to help Kairos' forces, I knew we were in for some trouble. Taking pay from two employers is always going to end badly if you can't make both of them happy. On top of it all, it seems lately Raitman is following a path only he can see, and I'm not looking forward to see what he finds at the end. Alright, that's good enough for now. Of course, I must go to the Spire to make sure everything is ready. I'll meet you there once Stenya is ready to place the artifact. Melantis, Master of Casting. Melantis surveys the room with an air of superiority. He addresses you without making eye contact. Is there something you want? Is there a problem? His eyes carefully watch Lohara and he answers to you. Yes, but these are forge-bound matters. Nothing that concerns the High Court of Tunan, I can assure you. What do you do here in the forge? I keep things running smoothly. Upkeep mostly, he smiles coyly. I am also second in command to Lohara, so in case anything ever happens here to her, I'm here to take charge. A muscular woman stands upright from her forge and turns to look at you. The light of the fire playing across her face, making her eyes dance dangerously. A toothy smile breaks across her mouth, the only bright spot on her soot-stained face. Do you kill with your left hand or your right? Well, both. I wield a bow. She rubs blackened palms together, eyeing you expectantly. Normally I can tell at a glance, but you're a little harder to read. Well, it doesn't give me an option for both. How would you like to know? The gauntlet is the hardest piece of the panoply and the most rewarding to work. So many scales of so many different sizes. And there's the rivets. She slides her thumb and fingers together, shedding flecks of soot and iron dust. Imagine you see a lot of battle in your line of work. One gauntlet is invariably going to wear out before the other. My mind is always thinking of what will need repairs first. It's as simple as that. Well, I suppose it would be my right hand that was holding the arrow itself and that lets it go. I don't know which one's going to wear out quicker. Noted. She clears her throat and wipes her blackened hands on the canvas of her smut. I am Lahara, master of tampering and forge master of Lethian's Crossing. My tasks exceed the hours left in the day, but there's no harm in pausing my work if it means speaking with the Fate Finder. How may I be of assistance? Can you make something for me? Can? She lifts an eyebrow. Most certainly. Well, Kairos invented cues for a reason. She lets slip a sigh. I have every Iron Walker and every Scarlet Horse ringleader sending me bribes and flattery in hopes that I'll work off schedule and make them some special this or one-off a guy in that. Her mouth moves as if to speak, but she falls silent, folding her arms. I did not realize the request was so thoughtless. My apologies. I get unreasonable demands every day, but it's not the volume, it's the purpose. She lowers her voice to a near whisper and steps closer to you. I do resent that Kairos' demands reduce our work to mere quotas. I should be allowed to customize my work for every soldier. Only apprentices have anything to learn from making the same size helmet again and again. Are you well? You look weary. Ecstatic. Her voice is matter of fact. A smile creeps in. The ritual of the forge links heart to hammer. My body beats only when I strike my ingot. My forge runs too hot, my breath becomes too hurried. The bond is both fatiguing and exhilarating. Is that how you excel at your craft? Well, that and practice, she scowls. But yes, the rituals link the senses to the material and the body to the tools. My hand becomes a joint, the hammer the true end of my arm. I feel the heat of the forge as if it were the weather of the room. Under such circumstances, true focus can emerge. Alright, that's enough for now. I can come back and speak to you. I should probably go to the ceremony. So, we'll leave out here and I'll go and join Zdenya and Albion in placing the helm next time.